can be a very lonely business. There was no authenticity in the real estate space.
Eric Simon, millionaire founder of the Broke Agents Network.
Who's amassed more than 1 million followers across their social media channels.
And helped tens of thousands of realtors revolutionize their business with their in-depth online training program.
We have 4 or 5 blog posts every single day. We have a daily email newsletter. We're basically like the Google of real estate training and social media branding.
So how would you advise an agent that is creating content?
Content creation now is a necessity, especially in a time like this. Be hyper conscious about the content you're creating, because otherwise you're just wasting an enormous amount of time. How do I create that storyline, and how do I ask questions? It doesn't matter who the guest is, it's the conversation that's more important.
How is that viable financially? Welcome back to the Shane Holmes podcast. Today we have Eric Simon with us. Eric started the page The Broke Agent, 10 years ago now?
9.5 years ago.
9.5 years ago, and it's the biggest meme page in real estate, period, the end. Lots of good content on there. I've been following him for a while. Eric, thanks so much for coming on.
Pleasure to be here.
So, why memes and not selling? That's the $1 million question.
Well, one's a lot more fun and a lot easier than the other.
I can agree with that.
If I was selling a lot of real estate, I could tell you there would not be a lot of memes. Basically, I was a struggling real estate agent, 2014, 2015. And I needed a place of solace, if you will, a place to express the pain and suffering that was going into being a real estate agent here in Los Angeles. I was in Beverly Hills, working at, Hilton and Highland.
Yep.
And I was a buyer's agent, a marketing assistant. I was the receptionist there. So I was kind of like moving around that brokerage. And I wasn't great at selling real estate, to be honest. I was 25 years old. I was very uncomfortable door knocking, very uncomfortable cold calling. My friends were not purchasing houses yet or condos yet. And basically I needed something to express what was going on when all I saw was everybody else around me being extremely successful. So I would go on social media, on Instagram, and I would see, hashtag grind culture, people posting photos in front of their sick cars or doing motivational quotes and doing all this stuff where I was like, wait a second, not every real estate agent is crushing it, right? Like, how is this possible? Yeah. I read 87% of agents fail in the first 5 years of real estate. I felt like I was on that path, and I was just like, there's got to be someone expressing the anxieties that a real estate agent has and putting a funny twist on it, because this is a hilarious business.
It really is.
When you're dealing with clients and you're dealing with dads at inspections and you're dealing with open houses, there's so much uncomfortable social interactions and awkwardness that happen that I just needed to write it all down, tweet it out, put it up on social, and kind of see what happens.
And it's so good. Like, so much of the stuff you post, I'm like, literally that day, I'll be like, I just dealt with that.
Yeah.
Like, I just had a deal fall apart because of that.
Yeah.
And also what's funny, what you said about like a lot of the agents posting and like, having the flashy cars or like the quotes and stuff, like conservatively, half of those people probably don't actually make money.
Correct.
Like,
yes.
You would probably know better than I would. Like, it's just like, it's all a show, and it's so memeable.
Yes.
It's so memeable.
This is also like, I started at 2015 was like peak grind culture, right? This is kind of when Gary Vee came on the scene. This is when the Tai Lopez's were coming out. And this is when, hustle grind culture was at the forefront of everything on social media. So that was what to post, right? And this is before reels on Instagram. This is before Instagram stories, I think, were even a thing until it took it over from Snapchat, maybe 2017, 2018. So really the content that you were being served on Instagram was just, here's what I've sold. Here's what I just listed. The just sold just listed, all business proof pieces, which is still, necessary content, but there was no authenticity in the real estate space when it came to social media content.
Yeah.
And I felt like I just needed to post stuff about, this is what every single real estate agent is going through that happens before, during, and after the sale. All the pain points, and then kind of see what happens, if this could become a brand or I could start to monetize it or what. So that's kind of how it started.
So didn't you just like acquire another real estate page or partner with another meme page?
Yeah. So Actually Agents, we didn't acquire them, but Actually Agents is another meme page. Hilarious guy. His name is Luca Alberetti out in New York. And we were rivals for a while, actually. We had posting wars basically for a few years, and he's a really, really funny guy. And we basically buried the hatchet and said, let's not partner up on this, but let's kind of combine these brands and, feed into each other, help each other grow, help each other's communities. He has a Discord community of probably 10,000 agents at this point, and we have a media company. So I was like, let's help each other out here. He was down for it, and now we're working together. Basically, we host webinars together. We just did an event called the BAM Pro Bowl where we had, a few thousand live viewers on and great guests, Ryan Serhant. And we had like funny commercials, like right after the Super Bowl is like a Super Bowl themed sort of webinar for real estate agents. So he's been great to work with.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you talked about monetizing. What is your path to monetizing? Because a lot of people love to spend time posting memes, but I think a lot of people are also interested, like, how is that viable financially?
Yeah. Oh, it's great. No, it's not. It took a very long time to monetize this. So I was selling real estate. I was doing odd jobs on the side. Like I worked for a cryptocurrency called Alpha Token in 2017, where I was writing for their blog. I was doing social media consulting. So this was not monetized immediately at all. And that should probably not be the route for someone creating a brand like this. I was never like, I need to start selling merch immediately, or I need to start doing brand deals, because this was such a new thing in the real estate space. Kind of the real estate influencer was not a thing yet. You know what I mean? Like, and also Instagram did not have the avenues of promotion like it does today. It did not have stories. It did not have reels. DMs were there, but it wasn't like you could use DM chat bots or have all these conversion tactics to get companies in front of real estate agents. So a lot of the real estate tech companies and people that I would advertise with or think to advertise with didn't even know how to handle this account, because they're like, all right, you're just kind of making fun of the real estate industry. Why would I partner with you, right? Until the content became a little bit more serious, I started doing marketing tips and, engagement tactics for real estate agents. I started building an email list. And then I did a couple one-off deals with like, Boomtown, which was a CRM, or QuickBooks for taxes. I did sell merch. And then now we have a full-blown media company. So we have podcast sponsorships. We have a membership platform where we have courses and trainings and guides and everything for real estate agents. We have conferences. We have sponsorships for our blogs or social media content. We have creators. So it's now a full-blown media company that monetizes like any other media company.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how would you advise an agent that is creating content to actually get those sponsorships once they already have like a meaningful brand that is producing good content?
Well, if you're an agent, I don't think you should be trying to get sponsorships necessarily. Like if you're becoming like a content creator, then that I understand. But I think it would be kind of weird to see in someone's feed if your main goal is to sell more real estate. It's not about creating content to get a partnership. It's just about how can I get the most exposure on my listings, or how can I, explain my value prop to my buyers or educate my clients. So I don't really know that that's the goal for agents, right? There are some content creators that do have a podcast that would need to build an email list and would need to have a YouTube channel and all these other avenues. Like having one social media platform, like if you're just pigeonholing yourself to Instagram, you have no email list and you're just throwing up like an Instagram story as an advertisement, that's not going to be as effective as if you have an entire brand where an email list, for example, that gets so much more conversion than an actual Instagram post.
Yeah, that's actually great advice. Yeah, I found that like starting for agents that are watching, pushing your personal brand and actually growing has been like the most important part of my business in the past like 24 months. I think like I started door knocking. Like everything I did was door knock, cold call, open houses, like you said, grind culture. I started exactly in that time frame of like, you couldn't really do a whole lot. Actually, I won't say that you couldn't do a whole lot on social media, but I wasn't doing a whole lot on social media. It was all just that. And now we've converted more into, okay, I can make a reel that gets, call it 30 hours of watch time, or I could spend 30 hours knocking on doors.
Yeah.
At this point, I think I'm going to make the reels.
No brainer. Yeah.
And like, I still will door knock. Like I still will go out there. Like this weekend, I'm working 2 open houses. So agents that are watching, like it's more of you got to attack it from all angles.
Absolutely.
You can't just sit behind your phone and make reels, because like it's not really going to do anything for your business. you have to be attacking it from all angles.
Yeah, you still have to have those conversations with people. Like, you know, it's one thing to attract people with your social media content, but then when you actually have to get on the phone and converse with those buyers and sellers, do you actually know what you're talking about?
Exactly.
There's a million agents, not a million. Well, there are a million agents, but there's so many agents that have gone so full blown into content creation that they've almost turned off the back to basics aspect of it, whether it's the door knocking or the cold calling or the scripting or the objection handling or how to master their listing presentation, that they're like, all right, now I'm just a content creator, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they're attracting people to their downline with Reel and EXP. So now there's these different avenues of monetization for real estate agents that they just completely negate the actual necessities of what it takes to sell real estate. And by the way, I'm a complete hypocrite here. I'm one to talk, right? Like I went real
exactly
estate
that,
memes.
but you pulled it off.
I pulled it
That's the
off, right?
difference,
But
yeah.
you know, 1 in a million here. But yeah, I don't want to appear like I'm talking out of my ass or lecturing people about this. I just mean, like, if you go full blown content creation and your goal is to sell an enormous amount of real estate, you still need to have all those core beliefs and principles about how do I engage with my actual clients?
100%.
How do I know the market? Like, if you're just posting reels and then that's it for the rest of your day, you're not going to sell real estate.
Yeah. I think you hit it pretty nail on the head. Like, you do need to be in the field. And the way I view social media, I got this from another content creator that is in the real estate space of flipping. You got to be willing to invest the money and do it for a year or 2 years without looking at it as anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's probably not going to move the needle a whole lot either way.
Yeah.
Like, I hired full-time content media manager to set up the podcast and post, and we post 4 times a day now. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I just kind of crumble that up in my brain and throw it out. Cause
Right.
like, I'm not going to make money on it.
Mm-hmm.
2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, like, it'll create other business opportunities. I don't even know what they are. I just know that having a really strong personal brand is absolutely the right thing to do. But when you look at creating social media pieces to become a big real estate agent, I think you're right. Like, it's not the best allocation of your time.
Yeah. And just like you said, it takes so much time. Like, the Broke Agent brand is built over 9.5 years. This is posting 2 or 3 times a day, 8 to 15 times in my Instagram stories. Like, I did that for a 2 or 3 year period, just knowing that this brand would eventually become something, you know? And knowing that this content works in the background while you're showing property and someone's watching your reel or watching your YouTube video, that's getting that brand recognition. That's the touch points. That's the digital real estate signs that you're setting up in people's heads. So content creation now is a necessity, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, especially in a time like this too, with the NAR settlement and everything, just as people are looking up real estate agents, is this person actually creating valuable content? Is it just agent to agent content trying to get other people to laugh? Are they actually explaining their value prop, right? Are they giving me something that I can't get by just going on Google? Like
100%.
You know?
Yeah. And like, not to dive too far down the rabbit hole of the NAR settlement, but it is creating this new environment where like agents actually have to know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, before, you could just kind of like run around and show property and like get lucky because people were like, oh, like, I know this person, like he's an agent. I'll just like, he can show me some houses and like maybe they'll get paid on it and get lucky. Maybe they won't. But now it's like, you got to really know what you're talking about. Yeah. And like, you got to get that person to sign a contract with you and protect your time, and they have to know the value of your service. So yeah, just like posting social media memes and like, you got to be a real agent. Like, you got to actually be a real estate agent, which I started the same exact time frame as you. Like, we both started 10 years ago.
Yep.
And I didn't make any money until like year 3. Like, year 1, like we were just talking about outside before Eric got here, I was washing cars. Like, I was selling real estate, and yeah, I was washing cars for like a high net worth celebrity, but at the end of the day, I was washing cars and I was like overseeing a car collection. It was shit work.
Yeah.
Like, it was not fun.
Dude, I remember in 2015, so it was me and this guy, Neil Mansell, and we were buyer's agents for a team out in Santa Monica, still with Hilton and Highland. And every single day, our task was cold call in the morning. So we'd get to the office at 8. We'd cold call for 3.5 hours. And then we would drop off expired listing packages for the next 3 or 4 hours. And we would drive around Beverly Hills, Bel Air, like, you know, these insane houses. I'm a 25-year-old idiot. I don't know anything about these houses. And I was praying that people would not answer the door because I would just be like, oh, I don't just take the package. I'm just trying to set up an appointment for my boss. You know, like the goal was to set appointments for the boss. And then I could maybe get, I think it was 30% on listings, 40% on the buy side. So I'm making zero money doing this, right? Like because especially in my head, I'm like, I don't want them to answer the phone or the door, which is the worst way to go about it. But because I was so uncomfortable, and it's my fault probably for not doing as much due diligence as I should, or learning those scripts, or really putting in the time to do it. But this is, 6 to 8 months of doing this. And I remember driving to, down Montana and Santa Monica, and I went to Subway for lunch. I was like, this guy has it right. He's making money right now. He's making way more money than I am right now. And he's just doing his job. And I'm driving around like an idiot, like eating sushi, going to Beverly Hills and door knocking and cold calling and making absolutely nothing. This is insane, And then I was sitting every inspection and dead open houses because this was a market in 2016 and 17 that was not the market that people are so familiar with now. Yeah. Where, you put a house on the market and it sells within 28 days. Mm-hmm. And these are high-end listings too, that could sit for 3 months, 4 months. So you could sit open houses where not a soul comes in, or 1 or 2 people comes in, but it takes 45 minutes to actually set up the house, turn on the lights. So you're having this 5.5 hour, 6 hour open house experience with driving there, leaving there, but then nothing happens. Mm-hmm. And that's where the broke agent content from is. I was so frustrated. Yeah. It's like, this sucks. Yeah. How are people doing this? This is the worst thing ever, Yeah. And I know I should have stuck at it, and if I would have doubled down and gone all in, I could be a successful agent, I think. But I want the media route. Yeah, and there is no wrong answer. Yeah, and same with what you were talking about. Like, I used to cold call. I'd show up to the office, have my scripts. Mm-hmm. I was 21, 20 years old, and I'd go into the office, get my coffee, throw a little whiskey in there, of course, and I would call for like 3 or 4 hours and try to get appointments. And what I learned is that like that business model isn't for me. Mm-hmm. Like I do not cold call. For anybody watching, like, you don't have to cold call. I then kind of transferred. I got a better mentor who was like big on open houses. And I still to this day do probably like 25 to 45% of my business just setting open houses. Yeah. And like, I work 7 days a week and eventually I'll go away from that. But to get started, like, you really got to grind. Like, there's really no magic pill. It's just trying all these different things. And then you'll find the few facets of the business that really work for you and then go all in on those. Cause everyone talks about, that's your weakness. You need to improve that. Like, no, just don't do it. Yeah. Like, if you're not making money doing it, just don't do it. I know. It was the definition of insanity, what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I wish back then, the real estate media space, or not real estate media space, but just the industry was so content conscious like it is now. And because I would have loved building a brand in real estate. I think now is such a fun time to be a real estate agent. The fact that you could build a hyper local YouTube channel and get 70% buyer leads from that, and really, really convert by just creating content around your local market and restaurants and coffee shops, and really entertaining content that you don't need a ton of subscribers for, but that people watch you every single day. And, every 4 or 5 years when they're making a decision on a house, they are going to use you. Mm-hmm. And building an email list and building a brand on Instagram or Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, you have so many opportunities to reach people that you didn't have back then. Yeah. It's awesome, right? Like it really is. Posting a lead magnet, like a buyer's guide, and then converting those buyer's guides because you posted on Instagram. And then now you have 30, 40 new emails that are in your database that you can now hit with your weekly newsletter. Like, that shit is so fun to me. Like, before starting, all there was, really, to create leads, all you could do was cold call and sit open houses. Right. And maybe spend $5,000 to $10,000 on mailers to get one phone call for someone that's going to sell in 12 to 24 months. And now there's this opportunity of not only a big market shift, which you can actually take advantage of if you're working really hard and you're somewhat established, or you're not established, either way. You can also literally just go around with a vlog camera and hire an editor and go to coffee shops and create leads.
I post on Instagram, for example, and like I have people that have been following me for a while, and then I'll just randomly get a DM of like, hey, I'm ready. Like we went to high school together. I haven't talked to the guy in 15 years, but like I've just been posting on Instagram, and you can get leads that way.
Absolutely.
Which is like exactly what you said. There's never been a better time to grow a brand than right now, because all of the riffraff, all the agents that came in 21 are, if they're not a high producer, they're pretty much not producing right now. Like all of those people are getting whacked because it's way harder to transact with high interest rates and no inventory. So if you're like actually grinding and you have a brand and you can talk to people and you're posting on social media, the opportunity to take market share has never been better.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's just like you said, those 2021 kind of COVID agents that came in and were pointing at disappearing captions on TikTok about why buying is better than renting. And anybody with a pulse could basically sell a home 30% over ask. And, you know, it was a buyer frenzy, basically. Those agents that kind of went all in on one platform or only created that kind of weak, brainless content, it's going to be tough for them. And it's the agents that create a big personal brand on major platforms. Like building the email list to me is probably the most important thing you could possibly do, because you actually own that data and that actually converts, right? If Instagram goes down, which it seems to do once every few weeks for some reason, or if TikTok gets banned or the YouTube algorithm shifts or your X followers, I don't know, like all these apps keep evolving and these platforms keep changing, that it's really hard for an agent who's selling a lot of real estate to keep up with these algorithmic changes, right? Or to stay on top of what's trending or what sort of social posts work. So the email list is yours and is not affected by an algorithm and gets delivered every single time. And that's what we're trying to build at our BAM Media, our media company, is have the biggest email list in real estate and hit people with our newsletter. And that it just really helps with conversions and help people really get to know that agent and appreciate their content more.
So you're now helping agents, is that right, with this media company?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, it's the Barstool Sports of real estate, if I had to describe it. So we have 5 podcasts. We have 4 or 5 blog posts every single day. We have a daily email newsletter. We have gated content, which is courses and trainings about, you know, social media, how agents can build their brand, how to green screen, how to get more engagement in your Instagram stories, plus agent tactics, how to use follow up and CRM and attract Zillow leads. Like we're basically like the Google of real estate training and social media branding.
That's awesome.
It's not just a one-off course. It's all these trainings plus a mastermind and community. But our goal is to have the biggest real estate media company in the world.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. And you're well on your track. Like a lot of people sell courses.
Yeah.
And like you're offering an actual service that helps produce revenue. Like a lot of the one-off courses you buy, it's like, I don't know what's in this box. You open the box and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And you're actually creating an infrastructure that's usable.
Yes.
Which I like. That's like one of the sort of like next launches that I've been considering that I definitely want to get your input on, is like, I want to create an opportunity where agents can actually learn to grow their business through like the traditional tactics and social media, instead of like, just here's your course, like go have fun.
Yeah.
So I think that the angle of attack that you're coming from is perfect, because that's what agents actually need.
Right. Well, it's a new course every single month, and we have these biweekly masterminds so agents can continue to ask us questions about the tactics that we're talking about. So if we do a course on ManyChat, which is DM automation, I'm sure you've seen on Instagram, if someone says, you know, comment the word buyer, and then you comment the word, and then it sends you a DM that's either a link to something or a landing page. We teach agents how to utilize that to grow their following and to grow their email list. Or we have a course on Instagram strategy, how to optimize your profile, or a course on how to build YouTube thumbnails, or what sort of content to create in your video. We have a listing presentation course with this guy, Tom Story, who's a top agent out in Toronto, who walks you through his listing presentation and how he goes about articulating that to his sellers. Like we have content on everything. It's so much content, and it's behind the same thought process that you were talking about, where a lot of agents or gurus or whatever will sell some course for $500, $1,000, and then that's it. They abandon you, and you're supposed to like take this course and all of a sudden it's going to change your business. That's not going to happen. This is like continuing education with a new course every single month about what sort of social media, trend is happening and how you could hop on it and use it to optimize and convert leads.
Yeah. Do you find that with creating media, agents have better luck following existing algorithmic trends or creating unique content?
Probably a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to follow the algorithmic trends, because if you're not following whatever posting style is working, your content's not going to be served to those followers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not utilizing green screens and doing hyperlocal content about some article or new development, or you're not talking about the NAR settlement, or you're just still posting square images on Instagram without utilizing the way the app is intended to be consumed, your content's just not going to be served to people. Like that's
100%.
That's if I was still just creating memes, this account would not have continued to blow up, right?
Yeah.
Because Reels are what reaches a new audience. I check my insights on a regular basis to see, am I reaching just the followers or what's reaching non-followers? It's overwhelmingly 70 to 80% Instagram Reels.
Yeah.
So you have to look at those trends to build this brand, to make sure that you're not antiquated in your posting style.
Yeah.
Like, do you need a quick cut every 2 seconds in your Instagram post? Yes.
You absolutely do.
Do you need a hook? Do you need a hook? Yes. Will a podcast clip without a hook do well? Absolutely not. You know, like you have to be hyper conscious about the content you're creating, because otherwise you're just wasting an enormous amount of time
100%.
to just post stuff. Like if you're posting a generic, graphic saying Happy Thanksgiving as your, it's a
cares,
Remax
bro.
branded turkey. No one gives a shit about that. Like
I hate seeing those posts so much.
People know it's Thanksgiving. The canned content doesn't work.
Yeah.
And if you're not optimizing your content to however the post is being consumed that day or that month, then you're just doing yourself a disservice. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I fully agree. Because I used to post, like, Shane Holmes started as all homes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would go to my page and I built a following just posting like the nicest listings that I would get.
Yeah.
Over and over and over. And at the time it worked. Like people engaged with it and it grew. The trend, like the past 3 years, is like I almost never post actual houses anymore.
Right.
I should probably post like a few more, but I get more phone calls, leads, and part of it's because I've been in the business longer. But that content and following the real trend has helped grow exponentially.
Yeah.
Compared to like just sold with like a stupid just sold graphic on it and
Does
like no one cares.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally no one cares. Agents, if you're watching this, stop posting your stupid just sold with like graphics on it and stuff. Like it's not going to do well.
Yeah. The proof of business pieces are still important, not like that. But there are agents that have gone so far the other way where the pendulum has shifted, where they're not ever posting real estate content anymore, where it's like, okay, are they just an influencer creating content? Where's the actual proof of business? So the proof of business is important, but it's more storytelling around that listing. How did you close the property? Is it you standing in front of the property and saying, if it's a listing video, this is the sickest kitchen I've ever seen in my life. You got to see it. Come on in. Like that hook is so much better than just saying, come check out this property.
Yeah.
So it's all about how you frame the content. How can you use your listings with content? How can you craft stories around your problem solving within a deal? How can you craft it in the caption? Can it turn into a carousel post instead of a just sold post, where maybe it's a just sold of the month and it's a swiper of 5 and you're talking about each property and what was unique about it and showing pictures of your buyers plus your client reviews, that you're just being more intentional with the content that you're creating. You're not just slapping up a post.
Yeah.
And that versatility in content is so important. If the broke agent was just memes, people would just kind of get sick of it, right? It's screenshots of text conversations. It's bad real estate pictures.
I love the screenshots of text conversations.
Those are all fake, by the way. Most of those are literally me texting myself.
Yeah. But it's still money. It's still very accurate.
They're based off of true experiences, but a lot of those are just like, hey, I'm going to text myself this or DM myself this. So little secret of the pros there. If you want to get engagement, just text yourself. It's so much versatility because it's reels, it's green screens, it's memes, it's screenshots of conversations. You never know what you're going to get. If it's the same style of content every single time, even if you're an agent and it's all podcast clips or it's all talking head videos or it's all market updates, the audience becomes so desensitized to it. You got to surprise them because people just want dopamine hits when they're scrolling. If I see the same setting every time, I'm going to want something else because I kind of know the content that I'm going to get from that person.
Yeah. this is half the reason why I love having a podcast
Yeah.
is because I learned while sitting here.
Yeah.
Like a lot of my content has been podcasts, and my engagement is like slowly but surely going up. But you truly have a point that I'm able to absorb right now. Like I can filter in some, hey, this is a house I sold for like $3.5 million. This was the story behind it. Like my client bought this house and turned it into a crazy Airbnb. And it was a 4-month process of going into escrow, falling out of escrow, getting them back into escrow, 300 grand under the kid's name. Like there's crazy shit that happens that like I could definitely start incorporating into my content.
And how much more interesting is that than just slapping up a just sold post, right?
100%.
Talking about how you negotiate a better deal for your client or how they started using it as an Airbnb. Like that's interesting. It's more relatable for the people that follow you because it sucks to be a buyer right now. I'm a buyer right now. And
Do you need an agent?
yeah, I do. Actually, absolutely. Yes. But I'll pay you 0% commission. So,
Deal.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting it
Oh,
anyway.
perfect. There you go. There you go. Like if I was a buyer and I saw that story and I saw, hey, this client was struggling for 6 months, they couldn't find a property, and we finally found the perfect property. Here's how the negotiation went. That story is so much more relatable. And then I look at Shane as the problem solver and how he worked through a deal with someone who is in a similar situation to me. If I just see just sold, here's a happy client standing in front of a house with one of those fake giant keys, you know what I mean? Those, then I'm like, it's almost like seeing another wedding photo if you're not engaged yet, or another kid photo if you don't have a kid yet.
Yeah.
And you're just getting pissed off and kind of jealous at everything.
Yeah.
So,
Because the
There you
truth
go.
is, like, real estate transactions always have a story behind them.
of course.
And half the time, like, the deals that I close, I take that back. 90% of the time, the deals that I close never close the way I thought I was going to. It's always like, oh, this came up in the inspection, and the buyer's dad looked at the inspection report and they're not going to buy it because of this. And then you have to talk them down. It's just money. Let's go get it.
Right.
And there's always that crazy, or like that one I just told you about where it falls out of escrow, goes back in. There's always, or we did some crazy stuff to get their offer accepted. There's always a story.
No, there's never a smooth transaction. I mean, there are, but very few.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, exactly. Every deal is an absolute roller coaster. That's why this content works for people. That's why like the broke agent content works, is because there are so many problems that happen on a daily basis that aren't being shown, because as an agent, you don't want to show those, right? You don't want to post a complaint video about how you were having a conversation with the buyer's dad, and because of a GFCI receptacle or whatever, they want to drop out of the deal, right? Like you don't want to have that conversation. So.
Yeah, 100%. Big shout out to Inspired Garage. I cannot wait. They're going to come in and completely transform the entire back wall here with custom cabinetry so I can get all the junk out of the background and have my podcast setup dialed in. Thank you guys so much. I can't wait to show you guys the transition video. What I was talking to you about earlier in the podcast about how I got this like kind of concept of hiring the media manager, going all in and just crumbling it up and throw it away. Because when I flew out to Ryan, like I kind of saw his setup and I was like, I have to do this. And I have to go at it from the mindset of I'm going to make content without a required return. Like I'm going to do it, spend the money for 2 years, and it's going to turn into something. And it already got my garage sponsored. So that
There
was
you go.
kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's actually snowballing like kind of fast too. Like I didn't expect that as many people would be receptive to coming on the podcast. By the way, thank you for coming on the
Of
podcast.
course, yeah.
And like, dude, people with like big followings are actually responding. They're like, dude, let's get on here. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
The reason I said yes too is I've been following you, and also the clips that you posted like with Ricky Carruth and everything were so high quality and well done. And I listened to that conversation. It was a great conversation. So,
thanks, dude.
Yeah. So having those, like when you start a podcast, getting bigger guests at the beginning is really important to leverage those guests to get other
100%.
people on. Like when we start our Overask podcast, we had Jordan Cohen on, number one Remax agent. He's out here in Westlake.
Yeah, he's out here.
Yeah. And then we had Ryan Serhan on. So we went back to back, like huge guests.
Yeah.
And then that's leverage to get every other guest, because then if they do a little research and see, oh, you had this person on, I'm 100% coming.
Yeah.
You know?
If you're an agent that does want to start, or even if you're not an agent and you want to start a podcast, what you said about the guests is so true. Invest in like really high quality equipment and make your intros something that someone else would want to be in. Like the intro videos that we make, it's like a hype video around whoever's coming on the podcast. And then they're going to want to share that. They're going to be like, of course I'm going to collaborate on this post with 500,000, 1 million followers, because you're creating something that they want to be a part of.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to start a podcast, like don't just get an iPhone and a ring light and just start shooting talking head videos with your boy. Invest and do something meaningful, because it'll actually turn into something.
Yeah, for podcasting, quality 100% matters. This is also kind of hypocritical because we started the Overask podcast. It was my friend Matt Leonetti and myself during the pandemic. So I originally started something called BNN, which was the Broke News Network, and that was myself and my friend Ben Fisher. We were sitting in his Long Beach garage doing SNL style kind of funny 8-minute clips of here's how you should get more business on social. Here's what happened in real estate news, but with like jokes intertwined. And then that kind of evolved to the podcast. But at the beginning of the podcast, I had a crap mic. I had a crap camera and my setup sucked. I had no ring light, and you could see my bed in the background of my guest bedroom and like a little dream catcher. And it was the worst background ever. Thankfully, it was at a time where everybody was consuming podcast content and Zoom content where it just didn't matter as much.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you. If you're doing more long form and more podcasting, the audio really matters, because you're not going to listen to something for 40 minutes if the audio sucks.
Yeah.
And you're not going to watch something on YouTube for 40 minutes if the lighting is terrible. And these are just very inexpensive tweaks that you can make to just improve your retention with your content.
My first podcast ever was with my buddy Mikey Taylor. He's an ex-professional skateboarder, and now he's a real estate investor. It was in my office with crap audio, crap video, and I was at my desk, and his background was like a washed out window with like a plant in the background. So we're giving you this advice because like we went through the phases of having like the really bad content. So just do yourself a favor and skip that step and start out with something better, because we already made that mistake and you don't have to.
Absolutely. You can still have bad content with a good setup, by the way, but so it doesn't hide your ability to have conversation, but it definitely is a necessity. If you're doing a podcast, just invest in a nice mic, good background, ring light, and then you're already off to a way better start than where we were, for sure.
And when you go into podcasts, we were talking, I go into podcasts and I do very little research so that I can ask the questions that come up organically and I can learn during the process. And everyone's process is different. What is yours like?
A lot of research, exact opposite.
Really?
So, well, our entire goal, so it was the Overask podcast where we would basically be picking the minds of these marketers in real estate. So we would have a YouTube expert on like Ken Pozak or Jeremy Knight, or a social media expert like Taya DeCarlo, who sells real estate here in LA, or someone who specializes in growing Facebook communities. And our entire goal was to, craft a good episode around this person that agents could really get an enormous amount of value from. And then I would honestly write questions beforehand that I knew were going to be hooks for the actual clips, because maybe I just wasn't as confident in my ability to gab on a podcast. Like, you're great at this.
Thank you.
But it took me a very long time to even get comfortable, like interviewing people where I could just do it off the hip. Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people too are agents that aren't doing an enormous amount of podcasts. So you kind of have to pull out the information out of them.
Yes.
Where they're not doing an enormous amount of media, right? They're not trained podcasters or anything. So it's, how can I get the most value out of these guests? And then how can I kind of write hooks in preparation for this that I know will be good for the clip?
Yeah.
So even during a podcast like this, if I would ask a question to the guest, but my question, maybe I fumbled around a little bit, or I took too long to get to the actual point, I would rephrase the question right after I asked it, saying, what do you think about the real estate market right now? Or what's really working for you on Instagram Reels? Knowing that that is the hook for the actual clip, because sometimes the clip is more important than the actual podcast, because so many people would just consume those clips and then never go to the podcast.
Most of my clip views almost all of them are Instagram, actually.
Of course, yeah.
It's all just like, here's the hook, and now I'm going to talk to media account. Let's grow.
Yeah.
And that's like you're exactly right. That's what it is right now at its infancy.
The people that listen to the long form, that's great. That's going to convert more. That's going to build your brand more. So you are creating the content for the conversation for that, but being hyper conscious of how can I cut this down into 4 or 5 clips? How can I post those clips, collab with the guest? How can I send those clips out to YouTube Shorts, to Instagram, to TikTok? And then how can I frame this podcast into a blog post too, right?
Yeah.
You could create 15 pieces of content out of something like this, where maybe you do a blog post just on our brief conversation about the importance of versatility in social media.
Yeah.
That's a blog post. That's a title. That's a clip. That's a separate post. So that's what's so
Absolutely.
fun about doing long form 45, 50-minute long conversations is you just chop it up and you get so much content from it.
Yeah.
For weeks.
Yeah, 100%. We film one podcast. We know we're getting 12 clips.
Yeah.
Like we're getting 12 clips. At least 8 of them are getting posted. And then if we run out of content and we're not hitting our daily posting threshold, we've got backup.
Absolutely.
So you're exactly right. Like having that backlogged and being able to create multiple content pieces out of it is great. Like when I sit down and film with people, like we were talking about, I started off being really bad. Like I started the podcast, and especially if I had a guest that wasn't a good podcaster, it's like pulling teeth.
Absolutely.
And having those questions ready in those scenarios is everything. Because otherwise, when I first started, I would have the list of questions because I knew that I would need to get the content pieces out of it. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a long podcast with nothing that's usable. And it's just like, hey, dude, like, how's your business going?
Yeah. Where'd you get your start? You know,
Yeah.
where were you born? Tell me the entire life story of some person that no one cares about, except they just want the value out of that person.
Yes.
Because a lot of these guests, especially in real estate podcasts, no one's heard of, right? There's, very few names like the Sirhans, the Cruz, the Tom Ferries that everyone's heard of that they'll tune in because of that guest. But if it's about how to create a local Facebook community and it's just a random agent from Sacramento, you have to really craft the title and pull that information out of that person. Not to say that that person isn't dynamic or doesn't crush it, but it's like, it can't just be the guest name, right?
Yeah.
Like an Elk Boys podcast. If you're doing a real estate podcast and you're interviewing a local restaurant owner, you can't just say episode 5 with
Fabricio.
Exactly. I think everyone's gonna be like, oh shit, I got to check this out. Like the guy that owns Gavi down the street. That sounds incredible. But it's you have to craft that thumbnail, that story around Fabrizio. 50 years in this community, build an incredible business. How do I create that storyline, and how do I ask questions to those clips where it doesn't matter who the guest is? It's the conversation that's more important.
Yeah. Yeah. You know who crushes it that I really like that you make content with is that Dan O'Neill guy.
I knew you would like Dan O'Neill.
He's like our age.
Yeah.
He's like also a hitter that I can kind of tell that just started organically.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I thought about that, but like,
I host a podcast with Dan O'Neill.
okay, so
Yeah.
that's probably what
It's
is.
called The Walkthrough. So that's our new marketing podcast. We have a rotating guest or a cast of 2 guests that come on. We talk about what's happening this week in marketing and real estate. We react to the best reels. We react to what agents should or shouldn't post around the NAR settlement, for example. That was an episode we just did. He's great. He's a Long Island agent. He has the #1 team in Long Island, and he's 30 years old.
Yeah,
He's
that's
crushing it.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what came to mind when you said like there's not a lot of brands that are known like Sirhan and like there will be a few more brands in the next like 5 years that end up getting to that level. And I thought of him. Like there are going to be not replacements, but over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have that sort of change and it's time. Like guys that are 25 are probably not just going to immediately shoot to stardom like the Josh Flaggs and things of that nature. And that's going to be kind of cool to see who ends up in that upper echelon of agent space.
Yeah. Well, before it was the $1 million listing reality TV stars those are all the most well-known real estate agents. But now real estate agents that could create their own brands. Like there's a woman named Glenda Baker who's famous on TikTok.
I know Glenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
Tom Ferry.
Yeah, exactly.
I met her before she was even on TikTok.
Yeah.
I always liked her. Yeah.
Before the Michael Jordan of real estate, before she blew up. But now she has created such a huge personal brand around herself that almost everyone in real estate knows who she is, and that's without a show. So now you don't need a buying Beverly Hills or selling Sunset or $1 million listing to build a brand like this, to get that sort of social capital. You could build a huge podcast, or you could create a ton of content on Reels, or find your own angle.
Yeah,
like I said,
that's
it's just such a great time.
That's exactly, yeah, I was just going to say that. That's exactly why I love this space in time. Like, you can create your own Netflix or your own brand just by creating your own media. And that was never the case. Like, before kind of the past 3 years, I don't think you could really, I mean, there's a very, very, very small population that were able to. Like Jordan Cohen, for example, he was never on a TV show, but he has a lot of super high net worth clients, and like he grew a ton on social media. But now you can make your own Netflix. You can make your own brand. And especially with the way the market is, like, you're able to forge things that you could literally never do. 5 years ago, I could never do this ever. It just wouldn't happen for
But
me.
do you know how great that would have been back in 2015? And you could to some extent back then, but
Yeah.
just the way social media has evolved so much, because there's so many losses in real estate, whether a buyer backs out of a deal, or there's just so many things that happen that were losses for me. Someone didn't answer the phone. Someone didn't respond to a text. Loss after loss after loss, to the very few wins of actually closing a transaction. You could get so many more wins in social media, where you start to feel better about yourself. Seriously, where you're just like, all right, this post got 10,000 views. I worked my ass off on this piece of content. I reached 10,000 people. That's way better than calling 10 people, right? Or maybe it's not way better, but it reached people on a different level. Or this post netted me 20 more emails. I'm building a brand. Or I got 15 more YouTube subscribers today. There's just more momentum with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's more tangible. It's more measurable than, hey, I've been following up with the seller for 2.5 years, but nothing has happened yet. That's equally as important, if not more important, but that's not as measurable as this post got me 50 more followers. That's 50 more people that are now in my database that I can now potentially transact with.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Like, before, it was all just like knock, 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 100 doors, get screwed on deals. Like, and I only have myself to talk to.
Right.
Like, the first 5 to 7 years of my career was literally, I would knock on 30 to 50 doors, 5 to 7 days a week, 2 open houses, getting burned on deals. And it's like, it was just me, like lone wolf.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no audience to talk to. Like, no one gives a shit. You just had to suck it up and just move on.
Those lonely open houses, because I would do them every Saturday and Sunday. Some would be in West Hollywood. There was this one on Benedict Canyon, right on Benedict Canyon in Beverly Hills, which is like a busy street. And I would open this house up. It was a $2.9 million house, not my listing, my boss's listing, and set up, open house signs around the city. So 10 or 15 of them. This took an hour, right?
Yep.
Trying not to get hit by cars. And then you're in the house, everything's open up, and then 1 or 2 people come in. And it was lonely as hell. It sucked, right? You're just scrolling through Instagram. You're just like, obviously you could do stuff to improve your business during those open houses. But when you say it's just you, it can be a very lonely business where you are the one feeling the anger about what's going on. You're like, why am I sitting here right now? Why am I not watching the Bucks trying to cover 3.5 against the Saints? You know, why am I not doing that?
Why am I not drinking Mosey's with my boys at Bungalow right now?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That's where I re-met my wife, the Bungalow, actually.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every Saturday.
To give agents, if you're watching, to give you like a really good game plan, because like we're talking about open houses and like going through those really hard times of not having a lot of people coming in, not converting, and just kind of having a really hard time with no one around you. I'm going to give you my exact strategy that it took me like 10 years to build. So open house signs, first and foremost, never put your own open house signs out. And put a lot of them out. So like,
because it's depressing to do
it's
that.
depressing.
Yeah. That's the worst moment of a real estate agent. I think,
it's the worst.
The before, the after, when no one came in.
The walk of shame.
Yeah. Or you go out and you see one of them was pointed in the opposite direction. And it's just like literally facing away from the house because you were so pissed off. Sorry, go ahead.
And you're like investing all this time into it as well. So put out 40 open house signs.
Oh my God.
40. But don't do it yourself. Pay someone $180 to $150 to do it. It's an investment, but then you go into the open house fresh. You're not sweating and all angry because you just put all these signs out. And you have to know that's step one. People come in step two. You have to know what your pitch is. My pitch, I'll tell everyone exactly what my pitch is. I get access to off-market opportunities that no one else is going to bring you. And especially now with the NAR settlement and having to like actually provide value, that is the biggest piece of value you can provide to any buyer is I have inventory that nobody else does. And I'm willing to go into the neighborhood that you want to live in, and through a combination of paid social media ads, mailing pieces dropped on the doorstep, and me and my team literally door knocking to find you a deal that nobody else is going to know about. That's what we provide. So when someone comes in the door, you know what your value is. So you're not like clawing them around. Do you have an agent? It's like, this is what I provide. Do you want a piece of it? And yeah, half the people say no, my sister's an agent. And now the market's kind of shifting and like you're actually having to pay for the service or know what they're getting paid for the service. Having that value proposition is huge. The second piece is what you talked about. You got to get those people to sign in. If you don't get their data, if you don't have 10, 15, or even 3 people that signed in during your open house, you lost. They're never going to call your business card ever. I've had it happen twice in my career where I handed someone a business card at an open house and they called me after.
Are you a QR code guy or
I'm not a QR code guy. I am archaic with my methods, but they work. For open houses.
What if someone misspells their email address or it's illegible or it looks like the guy from Scary Movie wrote it down? That always happens.
It is. It's lost. So what do you do with the QR code?
Well, I don't sit open houses anymore, but I can tell you what other agents have done.
Yeah. What's the QR code piece?
Well, I don't know. They have a QR code that scans in directly for them to put their email address into your database. So yeah, you never heard of this?
That's a nice little hack.
Yeah.
No, I've never done that.
First time I'm breaking this. QR codes. Okay. Well, yeah, you could have QR codes that go directly to your open house sign-in or landing page where people directly put in their email address. So that way you're not scrambling through the 5 or 6 names and hoping that they either spelled it right, gave you the correct email address, or an email address that they actually use.
Yeah.
And they put their phone number in.
My only hesitation with that is like they scan your QR code. Hey, do you mind signing in? And then they're like, yeah, sure.
True.
Phone in the pocket.
True. Well, you could force them to.
True. I'm doing the launch for my new brokerage. I just started my brokerage 2 weeks ago.
Congrats.
Thank you.
What's it called?
Shane Holmes.
Oh,
surprise.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
So we're doing this launch and I've been kind of like stressed out. I'm like, okay, I obviously want data from every single person that comes in, because what I was leading into is you got to get the data, but after you have to call them and you have to have them on your email list. So my sign up is off-market properties. Like it says sign up and then off-market properties. So there's a reason for them to actually give you their accurate data, because once a week now, like I have off-market inventory and I will send data to these people of, hey, I have this off-market property. Here's a quick video, or don't include the video. Here's the specs. And then they have to call you if they want an address, if they want a price, etc. And between those methodologies that I spent however many years figuring out to like exactly get it down, that's how I do like a ton of my business now. But I love the QR code idea because like right now I have open house sign-ins from 10 years ago that are just evaporated into nowhere. And collecting that data is so important because you own it. Like you said, I think for the brokerage launch that we do, we're spending, I don't need to talk about money, but we're sending out a bunch of mail everywhere and paid social media ads. And like the only upside in doing that event, yes, people will have fun, is like, how can I get these people to transact after?
Yeah, you got to get their data.
So doing it that way is actually going to be way better, because then I don't have to manually input it into my
I'm glad
CRM.
I'm glad I could break this new technology.
Yeah, dude,
on
QR
this
codes,
podcast.
bro.
Exactly.
What?
And they go directly into your CRM.
What's a CRM?
I have no idea. Customer management. I don't know.
Dude, I'm wild. Like
I
I don't really have like a super stout CRM. Like my follow up, and I hate to admit this, I have like 3 sheets of paper with like the hottest leads that I think are going to convert. I go into my office and I'm like, I'm going to call this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one with the allocated amount of time I have today. And that's literally how I run my business, which it could be improved, but it's still the same principle of collecting data, and you actually have to reach out to them. So if you are going to sit in open house and you're only going to get 3 people that come, at least have them on your email campaign so you may transact with them in the future.
Oh, absolutely. You know how depressing it was when those 3 people would come in and you call the number and it would just go to some like alien dial tone or something because they gave you some fake number.
Yeah.
And then you're just, oh, I just wasted 5 hours on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And nothing came of it besides the experience of this pain that led to memes, which led to this. So sometimes it's worth it.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's where the off-market property call to action for agents that are watching is super important, because if they see upside to giving their information, they're going to give it to you. If it's like, I don't want this schmuck calling me on Monday at 9 a.m., they're going to give you the alien dial tone.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
What other tactics are you seeing people have success with right now on the media side?
I think green screens right now are the best sort of content, especially, debunking headlines that they're seeing. It's an ultimate trend jack of content. So anytime there's a news piece, whether it's in your local market or it's, I don't know necessarily you want to do content yet about the NAR settlement until the dust settles, because you don't want to put out any information that could be debunked later on.
Yeah.
But green screen content for us on our Now BAM account always performs really well because you're breaking down something that is happening right now. Anytime you could create content in the moment, a trend jack, that's what really picks up the engagement.
Mm-hmm.
If you go on the Broke Agent account, it's the Super Bowl, there's an Usher meme, or if it's St. Patty's Day, there's a St. Patty's Day meme. I know for real estate agents, you're not just putting out meme content, of course, so it's a little bit more difficult, but you really have to capture the essence of what's happening in that day or in that week, the feeling of what's going on. A trend jack could be as simple as, it's freezing out right now, for example. It's not, but I'm just saying, like, say you're in Chicago, you're selling real estate, and there's a polar vortex or something. Your content could be around that and the difficulties that it causes opening lockbox or showing houses, or what it's like showing homes during a polar vortex, right? Like that's content in the moment. I don't want to be able to look at someone's page and see, all right, their summer content is the same as their winter content. This was posted back in January, but now we're in April. What has shifted? What is trending right now? How can I use an audio of something that's trending? Is it a Taylor Swift audio that I have in the background of a clip because that's something that's popular going on right now? I hope I'm explaining this clearly, but it's just trend jacking is what gets you to the next level with your content creation.
100%.
Yeah.
I, for a long time, was like kind of fighting that and wanting to just only create uniquely branded content. But it's the same story of everything that we've been talking about. Like, you have to do it all. Like, if you're a real estate agent, don't be afraid to post a meme every once in a while. Like, it's not going to get your account banned. Your buyers aren't going to not buy with you. It's just going to open up opportunities that you wouldn't have had before. And I started following more of the trends, and that's when my engagement started to really tick up. Before is like, okay, average. And now it's like, finally, okay, now we're getting 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, up to 300,000 on our posts. And that's solely due to following trends.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about, slapping a trending audio on a post just because. I'm talking about just what is happening right now. It's March Madness, for example, when we're filming this. Is there something you could craft around March Madness? Are you doing the final 4 of the best breweries in your area, or the final 4 of the best coffee shops? Are you doing a March Madness bracket? Are you talking about your college team? Say you're from Tucson, Arizona, and Arizona's playing. Like me, I'm from Tucson,
30T,
Arizona.
there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a T-Loke. Like, if you're a real estate agent in Tucson and you're not creating content around what's happening in the NCAA tournament right now, where are the watch parties? What bars are the best atmospheres to do it? Or, what do you eat during a college basketball game or something? That's a stupid example. But that's the content that people want to consume because it's happening right now. There's a guy named Kyle Talbot. His account's moving to Kansas City. And he's so good at just creating local content, acting as if he's a media company for his community. So when the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl or the playoffs, it was, here's where the parade's going to be. Here are the watch parties. Here's what happened after the parade. Here is just, it's like a headline every single day of something that's happening in Kansas City. Even it's just a news article of a new development or a new Taco Bell that goes up or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, he's just always talking about stuff that's happening where he becomes that local news source that people don't want to get from their local media channels because local media sucks, right?
Awful,
you're not going to watch the Tucson news. Like, I want to get my information by scrolling, right? I want to be scrolling and then, oh, here's my real estate agent, or here's that real estate agent. Oh, he's talking about this new Whole Foods that's going to, help prices in this neighborhood. Oh, he has a listing in this neighborhood too. This is interesting to me. So that sort of content is
Yeah.
I don't even
Becoming
know if
that like
answered the question.
local
Yeah.
figure of like, as an agent, your goal, this kind of sounds like vain, but your goal is when you go out to dinner at a local restaurant, you want people to go, oh, it's that guy. Everyone in your community should know who you are, and you should be staying in front of them, because when they think homes or they think selling, you should be the very first person that pops into their head. So it's not like an ego thing of like, oh yeah, everyone knows me. It's no, you want that person to know you so well that, oh, I'm thinking of buying, I'm thinking of homes, Shane Holmes. Like that's like what you want to trigger in people's brains. So I love that idea. And Tyler, make a note. We actually need to make like more specific Instagram content on like the local restaurants, because I haven't done that yet.
Well, I mean, just think, it doesn't even have to be, it's restaurants, it's new developments, it's proximity to your listing. So if there's, I don't know, a minor league baseball game or something going on in your area, you could always use whatever's going on and put it in relation to something going on in real estate, even if it has nothing to do with real estate.
Yeah.
So you could say, hey, this new restaurant just opened up here in Brentwood. By the way, down the street, I have this beautiful new listing. You flash a photo of it. That's a 5-minute walk from this destination. So it's all about like little mini plugs throughout the content where they're getting that information. And then you're kind of subliminally telling them like, I'm in real estate. I have a listing here. I have a sold here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Like I just came up with a new idea while we're sitting here. There's only like 4 good golf courses locally.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy content piece. I golf all the time. I'm already there. Why not shoot a golf course review? Hey, if you're in Thousand Oaks, here's Los Robles. This is what the green conditions are like. This is the fee to play.
Mm-hmm.
Shane Holmes approved, or some shit like that.
These are
like,
what the green conditions are like. That's so specific to only golfer. Just all your content. Like this one's rolling at an 8 right now right here in Thousand Oaks. But golf content. So there's a woman named Paige Steckling out in Salt Lake City. She's some of the best listing videos in the game. So if you're watching this, follow at Utah Real Estate Page. But she does the same thing, or not the same thing, but if she has a listing by a golf course, it'll be her on the golf course. And then the hook to her video is hitting a golf shot. And then it like follows the golf ball. And then it shows that her listing is 2 minutes away.
We are doing that.
It's such good content.
We are
where
doing
it's just
that
like,
for sure.
The hook is her hitting the video, because anytime you're scrolling on Instagram, and I'm obsessed with golf too. So all my content is like curated golf.
Oh, you golf?
And yeah.
Oh, dude.
We're golfing.
100%.
Yeah.
We're literally going to go play Sherwood after this.
Should I cancel my meeting and go golf with you? I can't.
100%.
I can't. But I would love to. Should we cancel this podcast right now?
Dude, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. But golf content, when you see someone setting up, like Pineda is doing this too, you're going to watch where that shot is. Yeah. So that's such a good hook for anything. Like you could almost use a golf shot as a hook for every single video.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because I love golf so much, but yeah, I don't know.
I think it's important, like using your passions. Like I use cars, which are like, if I wasn't selling real estate, I would be doing something with cars. Mm-hmm. Like I love cars so much, and that's why they're in my content, and I'm able to use that to help get a business use out of it, basically. Mm-hmm. And if I can use the time that I'm going to waste on the golf course and get a few media pieces out of it, like fuck it. You know?
Well, like setting matters so much too. Like I was mentioning before, if you have the same background for every talking head video, people start to tune out. Even if you're talking about the real estate market while you're golfing, say you're just in the golf cart, and maybe you hit a shot in between, but you're talking about a market update, or you're talking about a new listing you have that's close by. That's visual moving content. The frame moving every 3 seconds, like an Oppenheimer movie. Like that's what captures people's attention on short form right now. So using, like you said, golf, your passions with cars, you could do content around, I know the buyer's going to be like this based off of the car they show up at. Actually, that's horrible content. That could be
it's pretty accurate,
stereotypical, but you could kind of get a feel for it. Or, maybe an agent pulls up in some specific car and you're like, you could do like funny content around that.
Yeah.
What sort of car should an agent drive? What sort of car has the most utilization for open house signs? Or
what
whatever.
kind of car do you think an agent should drive?
I mean, a white lease BMW, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Dude, there's no other answer.
That's exactly what they should drive.
Yeah. I'll take the Ferrari now to open houses, even if it's like a lower end listing, and I'll just put it in the driveway and still operate because I still operate the same exact way. Like having cars or whatever has not changed the way I operate at all. I'm exactly as hungry as I was when I got into this business, but having that has been super helpful because when people come into the open house, it's like, okay, obviously this guy's doing something right. Like I'm not having to chase their business quite as hard. Like I still have to close, but it just creates a conversation opportunity that would just literally never exist.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people,
it's the first thing I talked about when I walked in here. I mean, it's right
Yeah,
there.
true.
You can't really avoid it, but that's a good idea for an agent. Just rent a Ferrari or a Lambo before every open house, stick it in your driveway, and then there's guaranteed aura of success and conversation starts.
That's
it's the
funny.
ultimate hook for your open house.
but it is actually like super helpful. And then I kind of get tired of it, but oh, does the car come with the house?
Right.
You get
Exactly.
that every single time. But it's like you're not fighting as much uphill because to explain who you are and why you're as valuable as you are, because it's like you got something figured out, at least in some regard, where you're able to have this car and you're not going out of business.
Yeah. I think the golf route also is just such a good content piece. Just anything you could do around golf is an immediate just hook on Instagram where I am going to watch that.
Yeah.
You know, and just reviewing golf courses, talking about even like the halfway house at each golf course, which golf course has the best halfway house, reviewing those. Like golf content is crushing right now. And it's
And
probably
also,
just
like,
because I like it.
But I think that's half of it, like shooting content around what you like.
Yeah.
I was, like I said, for the longest time, just like house. But people actually want to see you. Like if they wanted to just see houses, there's so much out there. Like it's so beat down. And like, yes, it's still very important to post that. But I found the best success is like posting things that I'm passionate about that separates me from other people. Because in the end of the day, what our brand is strictly us. It's like our own uniqueness. Like I posted the dumbest dancing video the other day and it did better than 90% of my other videos. And it's me talking about a car, like some stupid dance video and my house in the background. And it did way better than most other things. I think it's so important for people to focus on the uniqueness of who they are instead of trying to follow someone else's path that they've created, because they're not going to work with you because of that person. They want to work with you because of your own weird quirks or whatever it is.
Yeah, you have to see some personality on someone's page.
Yeah.
Because it's that passion that will align with that clientele that'll want to work with you for
100%.
sure. Yeah.
Well, Eric, thanks so much for coming on, brother. You are a wealth of knowledge. Like all the followers, I'm sure, got tons of great information on how to scale their businesses. And I really appreciate you coming out, bro.
Yeah, use QR codes in your open houses. I think that's the
Done
main
deal, bro.
takeaway here. I'm glad I could break that information. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a great car.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.